Hello, everyone. Today is July 24th, and this is the SIG Cluster Lifecycle Cluster API office hour meeting. Before starting, usual reminder that we abide to CNCF code of conduct. If you want to speak, please use the raise hand feature in Slack. And we have a agenda doc. I'm sharing the link in chat. If you don't have access, you have to join the SIG Cluster Lifecycle mailing list. And please, I ask everyone to add their name to the attendee list. And if you have topic in agenda, feel free to add them in the agenda. So as usual, we would like to give a welcome to new attendees. So if there are new attendees showing up in this meeting for the first time or willing to introduce themselves, please feel free to raise hand. I will give you a room to speak. Okie dokie. It seems that there are no new attendees today, so we go to open proposal readout. We currently have only one open proposal, which is the proposal about improved status condition that I presented last week. I will say a quick note about the proposal. It's also in the release note, but I took the opportunity now. First of all, a huge thank you for everyone already providing feedback. There is a lot of great discussion and on this thread. So I invite everyone again to please take a look and a few comments about the feedback or the overall feedback. So yeah, it seems that the direction is the right one, and this was the key feedback I was looking for. So thank you everyone for making this really clear. And there are a few interesting discussions going on, but nothing seems looking. So we are already discussing about detail, implementation detail, but the direction is the right one. And given that, I will try to speed up the remaining work so I can remove WIP as soon as possible. And ideally, we can start actual work soonish after the 1.8 release. But yeah, one step at a time. So now it is up to me to finish the proposal and to collect as much feedback as possible. So if you have time, again, please take a look. And with that, we are done with open proposal. Let me move this up, and I can pass the torch to Daniel.
Hey, yeah, there's just an update from Cluster add-on provider fleet. We have a new release today, and I wanted to show the live demo, and hopefully this time I can share my screen. If you're okay with that, I can start with.
Sure, let me make you co-host. So, I can make you. Okay, it is Daniel or make co-host. Okay. You should get an invite to become co-host, and then you should be able to share.
Yes, I think I got some notification. Let me try to. I'm afraid it's still the same problem as the last time. I'm using mobile version from iPad. So yeah, I'm probably gonna record them again. Let me quickly reconnect, maybe it will help. Do I need to accept some sort of invitation or just?
So you cannot share, your browser prevents you? Unfortunately, I cannot help because I'm not using the browser version, so I'm not familiar with the settings. Is there someone that can help Daniel quickly help Daniel to check why there is cannot share? Otherwise, Daniel, we can maybe let's sync a sync and then we try to have the memo next week. But yeah, definitely, folks, if you are interested, a new release of the Cluster PI add-on provider for Fleet, take a look.
Yep. I'll just shortly mention what it includes. Now you can deploy CNI solutions using Fleet. Basically, if your cluster matches selector, then you get the full provisioning process, including the CNI creation in your cluster, just by using Fleet. And the same mechanism applies to any applications you deploy from there. So that's what I'm going to show in the demo. I'm going to record shortly and post it in Slack in this case. And yeah, I'll follow up with Fabrizio. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great to see new Cluster PI add-ons provider to grow. And let's keep going. So I have a quick heads up. It is not the first time that I'm bringing this up, but please be aware that there are upcoming activities from Kubernetes Test Infra. The August the 1st, all the jobs which are still scheduled on the old Google Pro instance or Google Pro cluster are going to be disabled. And we just yesterday, we discovered some job for the cluster PI operator. We migrated them. So please, heads up. And then a few days after Kubernetes 131, so with the today's schedule, it is about the 15th of August or the week after, they will start the migration of the Pro control plane. And there might be some disruption, and be ready. Everyone should be ready to it. And yeah, that's all. If there are no questions. Stefan?
Maybe just one quick comment. There is Markdown that Ben is regularly updating with basically a list of jobs that still have to be migrated. I just posted it in a Zoom and we can add to the agenda. What probably makes sense is just grabbing this Markdown list and just make sure that there's like none of your jobs on it or that you are at least aware of the jobs that you cannot migrate for whatever reason. I know that there are some vSphere jobs on there, but that's our problem. But just if you're maintaining some other projects, I would just suggest check the list. Just make sure that none of your stuff is on there because that will just stop working in the 1st of August otherwise.
Thank you very much, Stefan, for the note. I have added to the agenda. I'm changing the title, list of jobs. Where it is, list of jobs still to be migrated. Okie dokie. Next up. So is there someone from the release team? Yes, Adil.
Yes, I'm here. So we did the beta 1 release yesterday. So call for action, please provide us, test it and give us a feedback. Before the GA on CapM3 side, we are also testing beta 0 still, but we will uplift to beta 1. We were facing some issue when we were uplifting beta 0, but we are in progress with that. Next is also a release team agenda, which is call for volunteers for 1.9.0 release cycle.
Sorry, Adil, maybe just a quick note. So in 1.8.0, we discovered a bug that was preventing the cluster to become provisioned. And so I highly recommend everyone to move to beta 1 as soon as possible. I'm sorry for interrupting, Adil.
Yep, thanks, Fabrice. Thanks. Yeah, we will also check on cluster metal cube side. What is that bug? Then on the 1.9.0 cycle, it's starting from 19th of August, and end on 10th of December, but this date is not final yet, but it will be around this time. So the requirements for joining are also mentioned here. So please, you can add a comment on the Slack thread, or you can directly DM me on Slack, however you want. And please join. It's a great learning opportunity. Yeah. That's mostly it.
And thank you very much. I would like to add again that a release team is crucial for the project, and I very often I got feedback on how important is for us to be reliable and schedule on our releases. But also, I would like to highlight that being part of the release team is a great opportunity for people ramping up in a project. And Dean can speak much about this. New folks joining, being mentored, being a shadow of someone else, and delivering great results so far. So everyone, if someone is interested, please reach out or spread the voice or help spreading the voice. And next up is Mohammed.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, so I have a couple of questions regarding cluster class. So it's a bit like poor in documentation. Like, what is the benefit of using it over like using the normal CRs we have, cluster class and machine pool? Like, what is the benefits of using it? What is the reason of having it actually as a beginning of ABI? And does it even have like any information about this?
Someone want to answer?
Repeat it again?
No, I was just asking if someone wants to answer.
Yeah, okay, okay.
So I was just looking in the background around what we. So it has been almost 3 years at this point. So I don't remember which benefits were explicitly called out in the cluster class proposal 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But just on the top of my head. So one benefit I definitely see is if you have to create a lot of clusters, and we're just talking about like 1, 2, or 3, and you want to manage them in like common way, they have a common shape and all of this. Cluster class should make it a lot easier, because here from cluster class you can have a bunch of variables, and then you just create your cluster object, and everything else works automatically. That's a very short version. I'll probably still wants to expand on a bunch of that stuff. Another big thing that we only have in cluster class is basically let's say a holistic management for Kubernetes upgrades. So if you're just creating cluster, KCP, machine pool, machine pools objects, it's basically up to you when you want to upgrade to a new Kubernetes version to do this step by step, wait until everything's finished, do it in the right order. What if someone bumps another version, etc., all of that. Basically, we have that logic in the cluster controller to go through entire Kubernetes upgrade in the right ordering and all of the stuff.
But what, sorry for interrupting you, but what I like based on the documentation, the link I have, what I see is you still need to create all the CRs. Like if you can share the
but
link.
you create them basically. So if you have, let's say, 100 clusters, and they're basically almost all the same or just the same, with a few, I don't know, different network and that sort of stuff, you will create those CRs only once. So you will create a cluster class, you will reference Kubernetes config template, a bunch of these, once to the cluster class. And then when you create your 100 clusters, you just create a cluster object. And that
But
cluster
I have
object,
to create 100 cluster CR.
Yeah, I mean, somehow you have to signal that you want a cluster, right? I mean, we cannot get rid of the cluster objects, or at least I don't see how. So
So
yeah,
if
you have to create 100 cluster CRs, but you won't have to create like a few hundred Kubernetes config templates, a few hundred of all of these others.
Yeah.
Because
And
you probably have
similar-
more than one per cluster.
And similar for machines and machine pool as well. Like each cluster of those will have a control plan and machine pool, for example. I have to create the CR for each machine and machine pool and control plan for those clusters.
No.
Okay.
So when you create a cluster class, you only have to, so let's say you create one cluster class. What you will need for that is you need, I just take a concrete example because it's easier to say. So let's pick AWS. So you need one AWS cluster template that we can use to generate AWS clusters. You need one Kubernetes control plane template that we can use to generate Kubernetes control planes. Then looking for workers, you need one Kubernetes config template that we can generate Kubernetes config templates, because that's the thing we use in machine deployments, for example. And the same for infrastructure machines, so you create an AWS machine template that you reference in your cluster class. Then you create a cluster object. In your cluster object, you can say, oh, I want to create a cluster based on this cluster class with that many control plane replicas with 5 machine deployments. So we have the concept of a machine deployment class in a cluster class, so we can have different kinds of machine deployments, basically. But you don't have to create a machine deployment object. You just say with a few lines in your cluster object, I want to have like one machine deployment like this with 5 replicas and a bit of additional config if you like.
Okay.
That's roughly how it works. I don't know if that was a summary or not. There should be a lot of videos around that we did over the years. I'm pretty sure that we linked a bunch of them in our book. So there's a section, if you search for video, because we did a bunch of talks at KubeCons. I think there was some other stuff, TKGI, TKGI about cluster class, for example. So the last one in that section, for example, I think that was like 1.5 hour session. So there are definitely a bunch of videos and talks around what it is and how you can use it that explain more of that.
Yeah, if I can add a little bit. So
absolutely.
Let me say, without cluster class, every cluster is 50 objects, and this is complex for user to handle and manage, for many users to handle and manage. Okay, with cluster class, all the complexity is taken care by someone, which is the cluster class author. Okay, the user only have to take care of one object, which is the cluster then. So cluster class gives you, simplify a lot the life of your users. That's the big difference. And it makes sense to invest in building and developing a cluster class if you have many users and many clusters of a similar shape. And I would also like to add that cluster class nowadays with runtime extension, topology extension package is a really powerful tool. It is almost a framework to manage your cluster, and it is super powerful when you have to manage many clusters. Stefan?
Yeah, I think basically the main goal here is that once you have your cluster class configured and deployed, the only thing you should have to do to create a cluster is to create one single cluster CRD, and on that cluster CRD you can define everything that is important for all the other objects that are actually behind that cluster. So your topology, how many control plane replicas, how many machine deployments, how many machine pools, some other configuration, I don't know, some AWS specific stuff if you want to. Basically, you can also sort of parameterize the stuff. So you can basically define variables. So if someone creates a cluster, they can just define a bunch of variable values, and they will eventually be mapped to some fields on some other objects. So basically, the way you can use it is that essentially the cluster object is the only one that someone has to touch to manage an entire cluster. If they change the version gets automatically rolled out. If they change some other stuff, if they add a few lines, they get an additional machine deployment. If you remove it, it goes away. And you don't have to do all of this manually. I think that's the promise behind it. Depends on your use case if it makes sense for you.
That makes.
But for us, it provides a lot of value.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the GitOps approach. So definitely it will help to minimize like the the number of YAML file that the end user need to define. But yeah, okay, I will read more about it and reach out again if I have more questions. And yeah, thanks.
Sure.
Thank you for the question. You're welcome. So let's keep going. We have a KV update from Christian.
Yep, just mentioning what you did mention earlier. Yeah, we released KV 1.11.0 beta 1 based on KV 1.8.0 beta 1. Sorry, that's a typo. And yeah, we needed that especially because we also detected that bug, which was in beta.0, and beta.1 fixes it for us. So, yep, that's it. Also linked here the fix we needed in KV beta 1, which was already merged at the time where we detected the issue. So that's good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Then we have an update from Mike. Is Mike around? Okay, I won't be able to make a copy of this hour today, apologies. But yeah, there is a usual Carpenter working group. If I'm not wrong, is right after this meeting. So 30 minutes from now. Yeah, interesting discussion going on. And I will say that also the in place upgrade working group is reaching to a turning point. So I think that we should expect a proposal from that working group soon. And we are at the end of today's agenda. So is there some last minute topic that folks want to bring up? Daniel?
Yeah, I believe I figured out the issue with recording, and I can show the demo now. Let me try again.
Okay, great. I stop sharing, and I think you are still cost.
Yeah, host tools. I think I need to click this share screen setting and
In regular Zoom, you cannot share the desktop. You can only share one Windows at a time. I don't know if the same apply to you.
Yep. I'm using an iPad app, so it's mobile application, and I believe that's the issue for most scenario. Anyway, I just want to say that there's a recording, and anyway, I can show it if someone starts the play button for me. So if you are going to start it quickly, for me, I can just speak it out.
Yeah, give me the link.
It's in the chat window.
Is in the chat. Okay, let me open it. Give me a second that I share again. Okay, let me try to make this a little bit bigger. And oh, is this button? This is big enough. This is the maximum that I can get. Okay, I'll let you speak and tell me if I have to pause or whatever.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's going to be okay. So this demo is quite short. It omits the installation instructions, which you can find in the repo, and we'll also have a larger demo in the documentation. But basically, the functionality I'm going to display here is once you have the Adon Provider Fleet installed in your cluster, you can do this either via cluster STL by providing the fetch config, essentially, URL, or using the cluster API operator, where you just can supply a resource to deploy those things. You'll get this component installed in your cluster, which will add some CRDs, some controllers. I'm going to show actually a controller running in a second. Additionally, in this situation, I'm showcasing the CRD, which is also generated by the project, and CR attached to it. It's a singleton resource in this scenario. Basically, we have some selector options, some settings for the configuration, like we are only importing things which matches the label import. We are patching resources, we are sending ownership references on our resources, and things like that. So you can always disable some of the functionality or enable depending on your use case. It's also interesting to discover some powerful features of enums in Rust and how they correlate with CRD generation options. So I'm hopeful that in the future it will be able to include those features as well. But here's the pod is running. So we have some history logs. And what I'm going to do is create a cluster, Looker cluster, using a cluster class definition, which I'm going to show shortly. It's a pretty simple one, mostly quick start, using 1.29 version of cluster. And as you can see here, we specify namespace with import label. So that's why Fleet will automatically reconcile this cluster class and cluster and do things with it. So I'm going to apply the cluster and show some of the bundles, which is within Fleet ecosystem is the definition of your application deployment. Bundle could be anything. It could be a Helm chart. It can be a Git source because it's GitOps tool, or it can be basically a set of manifests which are always converged to a single Helm chart under the hood. So, for example, here we have a KindNet CNI configuration, which is the default one for this cluster. And as you can see, it specifies a target, which is called cluster group quick start. The cluster, by the way, is using quick start cluster class. It's named quick start, so that's all. And for each cluster class, Add-on provider Fleet creates a matching cluster group, so we don't have to worry about forgetting something. It's fully automated. I think it's not entirely clean installation. I should have removed the cluster class. That's why you see one, I guess, bundles deployed, but yeah. So here's a cluster, which in the meantime has finished provisioning, and there's a Fleet agent, which is running, and those new pods like KindNet, pod info, which is another bundle I didn't show, just a basic application, showcases the process of bootstrapping the cluster, creating the CNI configuration, and thus the application standing up correctly. So everything was running, and I'm going to show just the state of the bundles as well. And yeah, you can use it. It's similar to Add-on provider Helm in a way, but uses alternative communication pattern because those bundles are being pulled from the management cluster, which is supposed to be exposed or accessible from the child cluster perspective. So that's all for demo. Thank you. And thank you Fabrizio for hosting me.
Thank you. Nice demo. Just a question. You currently support only installing stuff on new cluster, or also updating it on when the Kubernetes version changes? I think about the CPI. CPI is usually linked to your Kubernetes version.
I'm not sure. So what's the trigger for the installation is basically creation of a bundle and matching configuration for labels. We don't have yet some sort of substitution mechanisms which will allow to pass some values to the Helm chart, but that's a plan for the future. I remember the last question you asked for the previous demo. As for some specific upgrade functionality, I'll need to have a look into that if I got you right.
Thank you. But yeah, really nice and sleek, really nice, simple experience. Good work. Thank you. Some comments from Daniel? Let me quickly check the message in chat because I'm not looking at them. Okay, I copy the link from the demo up above where we had the topic. And thank you again for bringing this up. I think we are now again for the second time at the end of our agenda. Some topic. Okay, thank you everyone. We get some time back. Happy week. See you.
Bye bye.